So that's the Acropolis over there. And this is the overview of Athens. And right here is the ancient area where they would hold trials for murder cases and religious cases. So Socrates was put on trial here, and apparently they would just all gather on these rocks. There's no place to sit. It'd be a group of 2,000 people, and people would be here and plead their case and then be sentenced or let go based on the outcome. But that's what this ancient area was, and this is believed to be one of the first courts ever in the ancient world. So it's pretty cool. That's what we're standing on now, and it has an awesome view of Athens. So pretty cool. I'm probably going to try to get a picture in. Down over there is, move up a bit. Over there is Agora, which is like an open marketplace and also a place for open discussion. And that's why agoraphobia, which is a fear of like public places, open places. That's what it comes from. And then there's a temple over there, which was given to one of the, or it's for one of the gods. I'm on a rock, so I'm kind of slipping a little bit. It was very slippery rocks, actually. Very smooth. I know it doesn't look like it, maybe they are. But yeah, that's this. Okay, so I am back. I've been walking around with some American girls who were in my hostel, so we're kind of just checking things out. So again, this is Angora, or a part of it. And right here is a big tower, and from what our tour guide said, one of the well, I don't know his name, but an old Greek guy created this to help tell time. It would somehow, the water would flow through it, and based off of how the water was flowing at a certain time, it would perfectly align with what the actual time was. And they still don't know how to use it, but they know what it was for. They have tons of literature on it that they found, but they still don't understand exactly how it worked, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the battle. There's tons of cool things about Greece. I could talk all day about all the cool things. But for a marathon, you know, the kind of first marathon was ran in Greece. If you didn't, there you go. But what you probably don't know is that it came from the Battle of Marathon. As I run by here, people are looking at me, so I'm just kind of working my way up as people stare at me. But yeah, so for the Battle of Marathon, the Persians were attacking Greece. And so they were coming in from a vulnerable area, which was way behind the Athens, fortification. So they transferred the whole Athenian army to that side overnight, and there's boys like 12 years old to men who are 60 who walked over to the side and defended it. And they used for the first time a kind of a flank maneuver where they would send guys on the front and just kind of defend, and then the guys would come around. And they were outnumbered 6-1 apparently, and they still wiped out, I think he said they lost 182 Greeks, 192 I think maybe, and then they decimated the whole Persian army. And so they sent them running, but and then they got on their ships and sailed away. But the Greeks were afraid that they were going to go back to the front in Athens and attack there, and since there was no way of communicating with Athens from where they were afraid that Athens would surrender and give up. So the general sent one of his men who had been just walked overnight there all the way to defend on this side of the island. He told him, and after a day of fighting too, so this guy was dead tired, he was told that he had to go back to Athens and tell them that not to surrender, that they won. And so it's like 42 kilometers, he said. So imagine walking 42 kilometers overnight, having a huge battle with a Persian army, then being told he had to go rush to the other side again to tell them that they had won and been victorious. So this guy apparently ran as fast as he could. I'm sure he like took breaks and stuff, but he ran 42 kilometers, and apparently the myth goes that he got there, said, "We are victorious," or "we were victorious," and then just died there on the spot. So that's where like the marathon comes from. So now they do a 42 kilometer marathon or somewhere around there. So that was really interesting, I thought. That was a long story, I'm tired. But yeah, so that was one. And then there was an interesting story. Apparently the Greeks have had a problem with authority. They've never really liked any of their rulers, or That's an overview of Greece. Hey, oh, you're on camera. Wave, 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 wave. Do a funny face. That one was good. Anyways, they've never really had kind of ruler that they liked, but this one time during World War I, the Greeks wanted to fight on the Allies side. They wanted to be on the Allies, but their ruler had served in the German army and been trained there, so they were kind of worried about that. So they sent him and his oldest son to England just during the war, because they didn't really want any kind of conflicting things with that. And so they made the guy's youngest son, who was about 21 ruler. And so he was ruling, and the Turkish and the Greeks had always been fighting, and a lot of the Greeks believe, or were angry because the Turkish had parts of ancient Greece under their control. And so for years and years they'd been fighting, trying to get it back. And after 3 years, this young son, who was 21, had been able to maneuver through Parliament. He was very good at speaking and getting people to rally around him. And after 3 years, he had taken back all of that stuff. And so they loved this king and ruler, and they praised him. And then this is the one ruler they really liked. And then because of his grandma, he had gotten monkeys in a royal garden, and he just let them go because his grandma thought they were, oh, very nice monkeys, like they're so exotic and beautiful. So he had put them there, and then one day he was walking through, and a monkey attacked his dog, and so he whacked it to get it off and killed it. And then its mate had come up and bit him, and then he whacked it off him too, but the monkey bite eventually killed him. And so their favorite ruler died from a monkey bite. So obviously the garden doesn't have monkeys in it anymore. It used to be called the Royal Garden, now it's just called the National Garden. But those are just two kind of interesting / funny stories I thought were pretty cool. And now I'm almost at the Acropolis, and I'm really tired from walking. That was the ancient courtroom from the bottom, and then up top was where they would make their judgments and rulings. But yeah, I'm almost at the Acropolis, so once I get there, I'll show you what that looks like. So yeah, peace. Okay, so a couple fun facts. Fun fact number 1, it is $12 to get 12 euros to get in the Acropolis. Another fun fact, it's 6 euros if you're a student. Another fun fact, it is free if you are a student of the European Union, which I am not because I go to Norway. But apparently they don't know Norway's not part of the European Union, so that was awesome for me because I got it for free. So yeah, I thought originally I was going to have to pay 12, and they're like, oh no. Some of the American girls are like, you can totally pay 6 because you're a student. I'm like, oh sweet, that's better. And then they're like, oh no, it's free. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take that. So yeah, that's sweet. But yeah, I can give you a brief 2-part history, which is really cool, of the Parthenon and this building over here. Really cool. So the Parthenon is like this, and kids who have grown up in Greece didn't see it like this. Like, they've been restoring it for a while, and this building's really cool because, as I said, the Turkish and the Greeks have been fighting for like hundreds and hundreds of years. This building's 2,500 years old, and so first of all, I think a few of you have heard of the kind of the golden mean, which is it's in the Da Vinci Code, where it's like a mathematical equation of beauty. So if things are done to a certain equation that equal, like, I think it's 1.066 or something like that. It's like if the length is divided by the short side is divided by the long side or something like that. It makes it like, to us it seems beautiful. So originally one Greek believed that, came and just studied the Parthenon, and it's like, why do we find that this building so beautiful? And so he's like, maybe the developers were following the golden mean. And so they measured it out. A group, I think, of Japanese scientists measured it out, and it's actually off by a little bit on each side, which means coincidentally they didn't know about that mean, a golden mean, but they built it from like just eye by eye, building it how they thought it was beautiful, and it just so happens to be very, very close to equaling that equation. So it's really cool. And another cool fun fact about this building is that when the Turks had it under control, they put all their ammunition and stuff in it. They used it as a barracks. And so when the Greeks attacked, they shot a single cannonball and went through the roof of this building. It went down, and blew up all the ammunition that was inside. And it blew out the walls, the roof was gone, and the back pillars were flown 10 meters back. So it was essentially destroyed. And then eventually they did a huge sweep of all of Greece, or Athens, below, picking up marble that was from it, and they've been putting it back together ever since. So this thing has been reconstructed. So they literally went and picked up all the pieces afterwards and tried to put it back together. So they said once it's done, all the outside should be done. They won't have the roof back because it's just been blown into oblivions. But they'll have the general outside, so that's pretty cool. And they've had huge golden statues inside here. They had a statue of, I think, Athena inside, and then she was holding a 2-meter statue made it completely out of gold that symbolized victory. So if the statue she was holding was 2 meters, imagine how big she was. So that's just crazy. And then this building, there's 6 women over here, those women right there, and they have 6 heads, and they're supporting that roof. And then eventually, these things cost a lot of money. So that one ran out of money, so the architect kind of just capped it off like that. But when they came to kind of like excavate these areas, an Englishman was head of the project, and so he found those heads, and he's like, "Oh, this is really awesome and beautiful. I want one." So he those are now not the actual ones; those are just like recreations. The real ones are in a museum. But so he came and he literally hacksawed off a head and took it back to London with him. And so ask any Greek, and he is really mad that a London guy did it. And then not only that, later on, he's like, you know what's better than having one of these heads? Having 2 of these heads. So he came back and tried to hack someone off, but he couldn't get it off. Then he eventually got a hammer and tried to smash pieces of it, but he smashed it so much that it just broke, and so he left it there. And so eventually they restored the smashed face, and it's in the museum now. And they returned the old head, I believe. But so now they're all in a museum. But yeah, I just thought that was a funny story. But this one's just awesome. And these pillars, the Greeks knew that the Greeks were like way ahead of their time. There's still things that they did / could do that we still don't either understand or can't do. So yeah, it's awesome. But these pillars, they're not perfectly straight. They're kind of slanted because the Greeks knew this would be seen from far, far away. And when things are really, really tall, even though they're straight, they seem slanted from far away. So these things are a little bit on an angle so that they seem straight from far away. So that was really cool. And they also bulge because, like our tour guide said, when you see a guy holding up a globe or something, he bends his knees to show the weight of it. So it shows like, oh, he's lifting it up. So they kind of did that with bulging, putting bulges in the middle of the pillars to show how powerful and mighty and heavy the building was, just to make it seem more powerful. So I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that's a small fun fact history lesson for you. And yeah, so I'm just going to get a few more pictures around the Acropolis and the Parthenon. And yeah, that'll be it. I'm going to be heading down. We're going to a Greek place that our tour guide recommended. I'll be getting food there. And then, yeah, it's karaoke night here tonight, so that's probably going to happen. So yeah, I'll just meet up with some people I've met at my tour. But yeah, this is it, and I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, peace. Okay, so one more fun fact before I head back to the hostel. So we kind of know that like the Greeks were kind of responsible for the creation of democracy. And when we think of democracy now, we think of voting and like freedom of speech and whatnot. But the Greeks, even though the Greeks invented democracy, it was kind of different. They had Greek or Latin terms. I don't remember them. Our guide said them. But essentially, it didn't mean freedom of speech or freedom of voting or whatever. It was equality of speech. So they believed that it was every person's responsibility to say their opinion and what they thought was right. So when they had these parliamentary discussions, any person can come up, and if you were there, you could voice your opinion. And so they would have tons and tons of people there, and each person would have their chance to vote, and everyone would have to listen. Not vote, sorry, to say their opinion. And everyone would have to listen, and then they would all vote. So I thought that was a really cool concept. And they also had, it wasn't like, they didn't believe in voting for people. They believed equality of, it was like, I forget the word for equality, but it was something about being equality in politics. So it shouldn't matter if you're a really smart man or a really educated person, because a lot of the times people are like, oh, this guy went to Harvard, he should be a leader. They didn't believe that if just because you were smart, you should be a leader. So they thought anyone could be in politics, and as long as you're a person from the people, you should know what to do for the people. So what they did for electing their people for 700 years was they had a bag of beans, and then there was 500 beans in there, either, I forget if they were colored or white, and whoever got those beats were the rulers or the Senate or whatever type of government for that year, and then it would change every year. And so 500 people would be the ones that everyone would come talk to and explain their problems. And then I think, even though like it sounds kind of crazy, I think it's a good system. Like essentially, it's just having 500 people from the town trying to help rule the town. And it's like having a student council. It's just from the people who wanted to make a difference for that year, and it changes every year. So I thought it was a very cool process and a really cool story. So yeah, that's kind of the invention of democracy right there. So very cool, and yeah, I'll be heading back to my hostel now. And I'll throw in one more fact about the Parthenon. You will see it in one sec, but the Greeks really believed in like the beauty of buildings and stuff like that. And so, like when you face a building, like straight on, you just see the front of the building. It's not that nice, right? So for the Parthenon, along with like having the busty middle to make it seem heavier, and along with having like the golden mean, they built it. If you can see, it's on an angle, and they did that on purpose because then you can see the front and the side of it, and it just seems more like 3D and more beautiful that way. So it's just an interesting thing. Our tour guide was awesome. Like his name was Mike. He's from Canada, so obviously you're gonna know he's awesome. But he went to Yale for university, and then he went to Moscow for university. So we had a girl from Russia in our group, and he was speaking Russian with her. It was just like super impressive guy, and he was super nice. We might be meeting up with him later today, actually. He's probably going to come to karaoke night because he works at the hostel, and he does that tour. It's a €5 tour, and you learn so much. Like, it's not an official tour guide, but he's super knowledgeable. Like, there are people who really knew their stuff asking him questions about like ancient people, and he knew everything. It was super awesome. But yeah, really knowledgeable, really interesting, and there's a nice shot of the Parthenon. And so yeah, I'm going to be heading back to my hostel, and then I think that'll be it for Greece. I did a lot more picture taking sightseeing than I did filming, but hopefully you got a decent amount. It's not done for Greece. I actually might be back in Athens, so you might see a bit more. But I went through Angora as well, which is really cool. I'm not sure if I mentioned this. It's where that guy's water clock was. And essentially that place is just like an open marketplace and an open place for people. It was like a city center where everyone was free to walk and talk. And so that's where agoraphobia, the term, comes from. If I've mentioned this, I'll say it twice so you'll know. But so it's just the fear of being in public places or speaking in public places, because that's what it is named after, that place. So yeah, fun facts. I'm just full of fun facts right now, and they're not even my facts. I just steal them from the tour guide. But yeah, really cool. So yeah, I'm going to probably Mykonos tomorrow. It's an island. There's a place called Paradise Beach, which is supposed to be really cool, and I'll try to get into the city and check it out. And then I'll be coming back to Athens for a day, and just hanging out, and then I'm going to be going to the airport to fly back to Norway to do exams and assignments. Yes! And then I'm traveling for a month, so that'll be fun, but the exams in the between are pretty crappy. But yeah, so that's that. That might be it for filming for today. My camera battery is dying, so that's why I was kind of cutting it up there, because I don't want this to die. But I think I have a little bit left, so that's why I'm talking right now. So yeah, I'm walking back to the hostel, and if there's anything else interesting tonight, I'll film it. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow. So yeah, peace. Wow, so I just had an awesome experience. So like, during our tour guide was talking about the scam that some people have going. And so they said this guy comes up and pretends he's a tourist. And it's like, oh, how are you? And then he's like, oh, let's go to a bar. Like, he strikes up a conversation, and it's like, oh, let's go to a bar. I'll get you a drink. And so then he eventually brings you there, and then he orders a drink. And apparently it's like you guys get drinks, and then some beautiful girl comes and starts talking. Then he orders like a $60 bottle of champagne and leaves with it. And they stick you with the bill, and the two get away. And so, as soon as he came up, in my head, I'm like, this guy is probably a scam artist. And like, he seemed like a really nice guy. He knew a lot about Canada. He was talking about Montreal. He said one of his siblings had a wife from France, or not France. He said France, but he meant Quebec in Canada. And so he was just talking about all this stuff. So I had my hands in my pockets, because I only have my camera. I have a money belt, so I knew that was safe. And then I had my hands in my pockets the whole time, just in case, like, whatever. And so I was walking with them this whole time, because we were walking towards my hostel anyway. And he always asked where I was, and I totally didn't tell him the right place. But yeah, so we were walking towards, and I knew, he's like, oh, and then as soon as he said, let's go to the bar, I'm like, oh, this is for sure a scam. But on the way there, he's like, oh, hold a sec, do you want something? I'm like, yeah, sure, a chocolate bar. So I watch him buy it. I was making sure he's not pulling it out anywhere. So he got me a chocolate bar, totally ate it, and then we keep going. I'm like, yeah, I've got like 10 minutes. And because he said it was 10 minutes away, I'm like, well, you can totally show me the bar and I'll totally show up later. He's like, oh no, you gotta have a drink. And I'm like, nope, let's try. So we got there, and then he's like, oh, come on, and I know a good, cute girl here. I'm like, oh my god, this is so obvious now. And so I'm like, oh no, thanks, I'll go. He's like, oh, and then you can just tell I thwarted his scam, but it was funny. It's a fun experience. And I got a free chocolate bar, so that was pretty sweet. But he's like, what's your name? I'm like, Michael. And he's like, oh, my name's Angelo, Michelangelo. Like, it was funny, but it was really, you could tell it was kind of like, he was actually really funny. If he wasn't a scam artist, he'd be pretty cool, but I guess the scam artists are very personable. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty funny, interesting. And yeah, I just thought I'd talk about it because it's pretty interesting. I was scared at a couple points. I'm like, okay, maybe I should stop like playing along with this. But whatever, it was funny. And I'm alive now, so that's cool. And yeah, so there's a funny, interesting thing. I don't know if I'll film it anymore because my battery's almost dead. But I just thought I'd record the experience and let you guys know. So yeah, peace.